Okay. One of the big mistakes in accuracy of pump rifles is when a person's pumping, sometimes what they'll do is they'll go really fast like this. And you don't want to do that. The way you want to pump it is you want to take your time. Like that. The reason is if you don't take your time, what you're doing is you're not allowing enough time for the air to get inside the chamber. So this is another tip that'll help your accuracy. If you were to pump this 4 times really fast, and then the next time you pump it 4 times, and it's not at a consistent speed, what happens is you're going to have a different volume of air in that chamber. So what I recommend is for more accurate shots, take your time pumping it. Make sure that air gets in there. If you pump it too fast, you're going to have some problems with your accuracy. So that's a good tip that a lot of people don't know about with these pumpers. Another tip for accuracy is a lot of people, believe it or not, still don't oil the pad. You want to get into a routine. Usually what I do is before I start a shooting session, I usually put a couple drops of oil right here. But you wouldn't believe how many people go for literally months without oiling this pad here. And that's going to affect your accuracy. So make sure you have some kind of routine where you oil by every so many 100 shots, or you could do like me and just before you start shooting, during the day, you just oil it with a couple drops, and then the next day a couple drops, and that should be good. As long as it's got a wet look on that rubber there, it means it's got a little bit of oil, so you'll be fine. Another accuracy tip is making sure that when you put the pellet in there, you don't do it too quickly. Whenever you damage the skirt or the head of the pellet, it's going to change its flight. So what you want to do is when you're putting in the pellet in there, what you want to do is you want to visually inspect it, and when you close it, you don't want to close it too fast because that pellet might chip the side of the barrel. So you want to just be real gentle, make sure the pellet's lined up, and close it. Now, if you go real fast like this, what happens sometimes is the pellet isn't perfectly lined up, and what it's going to do is it's going to chip the head of the pellet on here. So what you want to do is when you're loading pellets, you want to visually make sure the pellet is straight. Some people have loaded it backwards, not knowing that they had it backwards. So you want to make sure the pellet's straight, and you want to take your time, like that. You don't want to rush anything on this rifle. Otherwise, it'll cost you accuracy. Another tip is a lot of people still don't clean their barrel. Now cleaning, it's kind of a difficult thing to tell you exactly what's best, but the most important thing with cleaning a barrel is you want to make sure that when you clean it, that you protect the crown of the barrel. Inside here, the barrel, where it's rifled, if you bump it up against metal, aluminum, or anything hard, what you could do is you could chip that crown a little bit and throw off your accuracy. For instance, here I've got this aluminum cleaning rod right here. When I put it in very, very slow so that this aluminum doesn't bump up against the crown. If all possible, you should use something that isn't metal at all to clean the barrel. Now cleaning the barrel, it depends. When you're firing different types of pellets, there's some pellets that like a more fouled barrel, and some pellets that like a more clean barrel. So what you want to do is when you're taking shot groups, I would do like 5 sets of 5 on a perfectly clean barrel for each different pellet that you're trying and see how that goes. If you think you can get better accuracy by dirtying up the barrel a little bit, try that too. Sometimes that's true with some rifles that they prefer to be a little bit dirtier for some pellets to shoot better. So it's all a test that you have to do, and I would do it at bench rest on paper to find out exactly when the right time to clean your barrel is. I found with this Crosman Legacy here that, when I switch pellets, I just automatically clean the barrel when I switch to a newer pellet. So you can get into your own routine, but also document your routine to find out which works for you. There's such a thing called a barrel equilibrium. What that is that's whether the barrel is fouled or not. Sometimes, a barrel is better fouled and sometimes it's better clean. It just depends on the type of pellet you're using. Since there's so many different types of pellets, you'll find that some pellets prefer a perfectly clean barrel at all times, and you'll find other pellets that like a more dirty barrel. So it's all up to you. The other thing is that two Crosman Legacies are not going to be the same rifle. So they're same in looks and everything, but as far as the materials, they might look the same, but they're not, because the barrel, when it gets rifled, it's kind of like a fingerprint that we have. It's its own special mark for the lands and the grooves, especially at the crown at the end here. Every crown at the end of a barrel is going to be different. It doesn't matter what type or model a rifle is, even if they're exactly identical. So when you're doing reviews online and you're telling people that a rifle is inaccurate with a certain pellet, that's just your accuracy for your rifle. Other rifles might be accurate with other pellets. And once again, it's because the crown is different at the end here and the rifling itself. So every rifle, this exact copy, is going to shoot a little bit different with different pellets. But it doesn't hurt to use competition pellets when you do shoot these rifles, when you first get them broken in and stuff to do accuracy tests. Get some good pellets in them. I think one of the most important things is when you buy this rifle, what you need to do is give it a break-in period, because the rifling in the barrel is fresh. All the parts, have to be broken in. So what I would do before you even do any accuracy tests, what I would do is I would break it in by firing maybe a tin of pellets. I've noticed that accuracy does improve with every new air rifle that I buy if I give it a good break-in. That includes spring piston rifles, that includes pumpers. Anything that you get, you want to make sure that you put it through its paces for 250, 500 shots, clean the barrel, and then start doing your accuracy tests. The way people fail online doing reviews is sometimes what they'll do is they'll do an accuracy test right out of the box, and the rifle has not been broken in yet. So you're going to get different results. If I had done that years ago, I could tell you a matter of fact that the groups got smaller as the rifle broke in. So that's why now I like to break in the rifle first and then do accuracy tests and stuff like that. Okay, one thing about temperature. For the rifle and the scope, temperature is going to affect everything. Your zero, it's going to affect the velocity. For instance, right now inside the house here, it's 68 degrees. Now, if I brought this outside at 75, 80 degrees, what I like to do is I like to let the rifle get acclimatized, if that's a word, just to sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes and warm up to the same temperature as the outdoors. Anytime you're zeroing, what I like to do for zero is when I'm in the basement here, I'll zero it in for the basement. When I'm outside, I'll zero it in for outside. And that's because of the simple fact that whenever you change temperature from indoors and outdoors, you are going to have to fiddle a little bit with your turret. There's no such thing as being on zero all the time. You're always going to have to adjust your scope each time you shoot because of temperature, because of switching pellets, and other variables like that. So what I would do is make sure you allow the gun, when you go inside or outside, make sure you allow it to sit for about 10 minutes and get to the same temperature, and then start adjusting your scope and stuff like that. Accuracy tip is do not shoot BBs. If you get this and you want to use it for, say, some more precision shots or whatever, what I would recommend is not using BBs at all, steel BBs. If you want to, buy 2 of them. Use one of them for BBs and pellets, and just buy one like I got here, just strictly for pellets. So this one's strictly for pellets. It's never going to see any BBs. Lead BBs are fine, but that's something that'll throw off your accuracy on your rifle is if you're going to shoot a bunch of BBs through it. So just to remember that too. Okay, another trick for accuracy is when selecting pellets, it's good to select the best pellet you can that groups the best. Also, when you do shoot pellets through this rifle, if it doesn't work good at 25 yards, try 20 yards. If it doesn't work good at 20 yards, try 10. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to do some variations on these pellets. Like, for instance, if I was going to test this Sniper 8.5 H&N pellet, what I would do is I would do a few things. I would test it at 10 yards, 15 yards, 25 yards. I would test it at 2 pumps, 4 pumps, 6 pumps, 8 pumps, and 10 pumps. The reason why you variate things like that is because you want to find out what speed this pellet likes or what distance it likes. There are some pellets that are fussy on speed and fussy on distance because of their ballistic coefficient. So you want to switch up your pumps, the amount of pumps that you pump this, and you want to switch out your distances. So if you want to do it my way, what I do is I start off at 10 yards and I fire like a couple sets of 5 at 2 pumps, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then I go to 15, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then I go to 20 or 25. So that way you can tell what kind of behavior this pellet has at different distances. I do like using the bench rest method for all that shooting. So that way you can get the gun as steady as possible so you can tell how accurate it is, and you can sight it in and zero it that way. It's bad to zero and sight in if you don't have a perfectly comfortable bench rest setup where you can keep the gun from moving around. You have to make sure this gun doesn't move and that you take your time with your shots. So anyway, I would do that with pellets. So you're going to want to invest in some different types of pellets, and you want to find out which one is going to give you the distance that you need. And of course you can look at things like price and different things like that too. But when it comes down to pellets, you want to find that magic pellet for that distance. And sometimes what I will do, not all the times, it gets expensive, is I'll dedicate the rifle like this one here to just one pellet at 25 yards. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll shoot the whole entire tin just to see what the behavior of that pellet is. And I found out that with most pellets, you have to give them a fair trial of, say, like 5 sets of 5. When you're just shooting 3 pellets at a time like these, and then you switch to these, you're going to have some goofy results because you haven't given the barrel enough time to get used to these first. So what I would do is I would do 5 sets of 5 of, say, like these pellets, and then clean the barrel, and then do 5 sets of 5 with these, then clean the barrel, and then switch to another. The reason why I like to clean the barrel first is so that when I'm going through a few sets of 5, if I notice that the rifle shoots better after, say, like the second set of 5, then I know that the barrel prefers to be a little bit dirtier to shoot better. So that's what I said in one of my other video clips is about cleaning the barrel. You want to find out when the best time to clean the barrel is. Sometimes it's better to hold off. Sometimes it's better to clean it right away. Depending on the characteristic of the pellet you're shooting and how accurate it is, you can switch up your cleaning methods to find out what is going to give you the most accuracy. So like I said, every gun's different. You know, your gun is going to be different than mine, even though they're the same make and model, because of the rifling. So the rifling's special on every single gun. Okay, the trigger on these rifles for accuracy. Like I said before in another video clip, is you want to make sure you break it in first. And part of the reason you break it in is not just to get everything working right and the rifling in the barrel improving. you want to make sure that you give yourself trigger time, because the trigger has to be broken in also. Now on this trigger, there's a little bit of play and then a break. It's kind of hard and gritty when it's new, so you're going to have to shoot it quite a bit. But over time, what will happen is you'll find that the trigger will loosen up a little bit more for you, and your shots will be more predictable. That's one of the reasons why you don't just take a rifle out of the box and start doing accuracy tests. You want to make sure that you give the gun a good break-in. So that trigger is going to take some time to break in also, along with the other parts. So once again, the trigger is part of that break-in period. Okay, for scopes for this rifle, what I would do is if you're at 25 yards, or I've already figured this out outside, if you're at 25 yards and say you want to hit something the size of a quarter, then 4-power scope is going to be fine for you. Let's say you're at 25 yards and you want to hit something the size of a dime, then you're going to have to go to 9-power. The scope that I have on here right now is a 6 to 24 power. So when I'm shooting, usually indoors, I'll use 9. Also outdoors, I'll use 9 because it's 25 yards. And most of the targets I'm aiming for out at 25 yards would be about a ½ inch or something like that. I really feel no need to have a higher magnification because I have tested at 25 yards over 9-power, and I still get the same results with 9-power as I would with, say, up to 24-power. So it is possible sometimes to over magnify your target, and what happens is you get some parallax error with your eyeball when you're looking in the scope, because the higher the magnification, the more easier it is to get your eye in the wrong position. So you want to make sure you match the target with the magnification power. Sometimes you'll be more accurate backing off. So what I would do if I were you guys is anything indoors, like, or even outdoors, like out to 15 yards, that 4x15 scope that comes with it, that cheaper one, I would recommend that out to 15 to maximum 25 yards. At 25 yards or a little further, I would say a 9-power scope would work good. If you're going beyond 40 yards, I would say you can bump it up to 12. And if you want to do some crazy shots, then you can bump it up like I did to 24. And I think that the prices online for scopes, like on Pyramid Air, the UTG scopes, for $100 you can get a 6 to 24 power scope, and a little cheaper, a 9-power scope. So why not just go for a multiple magnification scope like this one, which is 6 through 24. So I know it seems like overkill, but it's not set on 24 right now. It's set on 9. So I would recommend go for the good scope, the one that's got the high power magnification. So that way you can choose your magnification. If you don't have the money and you're stuck with the 4x15, that's no problem. A 4x15 duplex reticle, when you line it up with the size of a 1-inch target, it's pretty much right in the crosshair, so you got just enough crosshair to work with for a 1-inch target at 25 yards. But if you're planning on doing anything more precision than 1-inch groups at 25 yards, I would recommend going to a 9-power scope. So that would help you guys out a lot for that. Okay, for scopes, parallax setting. The parallax setting on this one, on a full 24, is 15 yards, and that's exactly what this basement is for shooting. Now, to get it to focus better, I usually have to drop down the magnification. But if you guys want to cut out that altogether, so that you can see clearly from, say, like 0 to 10 feet and you're indoors, what I would do is keep the parallax rating of the scope down as far as possible. You'll find that UTG scopes, like my Bug Buster, has a 3-yard parallax setting, and a lot of your Hawk scopes are down to about 6 or 7. And them are fine for indoor shooting because you'll get a very, very clear picture. and you don't have to drop down your magnification right here to compensate for the blurriness. And that's what you have to do with some of these scopes, is you have to turn them down when you're indoors to, instead of 24 power, you have to keep dropping the power till the focus comes in. So I would recommend, most good scopes or air guns are about $100. I would recommend a bug buster scope if you're planning on shooting indoors in close ranges. One of the good things about the 3-9 by 32 bug buster scope is it's got the 3-yard parallax setting, so that means you can focus really close. I've tried it at 3 or 4 feet, and I could see a fly and all of its wings and stuff like that, the details in its wings. So if you're interested in a scope where you really want to see clearly at close distances, the bug buster is the way to go. Or if you're a 10, 15-yard person, then, a 10-yard parallax setting or 15 or whatever. What you want to stay away from with air guns is the 50-yard parallax setting, especially in the 100, because they're going to be fuzzy even at 25 yards. Air gun companies do give you scopes that come with 35-yard parallax setting from the factory, and them are okay at 25 yards. You can still see what you're shooting, but when you're shooting indoors, things look a little fuzzy still. So that's one of the reasons why it's good to have a lower parallax setting scope, and make sure that it has different magnification, adjustable objective, and all that good stuff. So that way you've got something to work with. And also the price difference between a lot of these scopes isn't that much. So go for the big one, go for the good one, the 24 power scope. A lot of people have to understand that ultralight pellets, like say this 4-grain SSP pointed pellet made by Crosman, it's a very light pellet. A lot of people make a mistake thinking that higher velocity means longer range, and meaning that the pellet is going to get there faster, but that's not always true. This pellet has a lower ballistic coefficient, say, than this right here, 10.34 grain air arms pellet. So essentially what happens is at very, very long ranges, this pellet will reach, and believe it or not, it will probably be going faster the further it gets out. Whereas a very, very lightweight pellet like that is going to lose its energy faster than the heavy one will. So ballistic coefficient is everything for field shooting. And these are pretty much made if you don't want to pump that much and you're at close range and you want to boost speed and a lower FPS air guns, like say a Daisy 840 or a single pump youth rifle. This was meant to just boost velocity. It wasn't meant to shoot long range or anything like that. Even though the velocity is very impressive, like I said, it's going to lose velocity. Whereas this one, the starting velocity, it's going to retain much of that velocity and much of that energy downrange. And in a field test, I've seen it happen before, where this little one here falls out of my scope picture because it's just too light to go through the wind. So you want to stick with the heavy pellets for long range. This one here has got a very high ballistic coefficient. It's over 0.025, whereas this one here, when I chronied it at 25 yards, it was 0.006 or something like that. So very, very poor ballistic coefficient. And once you enter in your ballistic coefficient values, you can tell what the velocity is going to be like at 10 yards, 25 yards, 75 yards, 100 yards, stuff like that. And that's how you know that these are going to be worse. But also real field tests show that ultralight pellets aren't going to do very good long range. So if you're within, say, 15, 25 yards, these light ones, you might want to give them a go or something for plinking or having a flat trajectory. But if you're going long range, I would get a little heavier. Okay, for a lot of air guns, wad cutters will do good, but they're kind of picky. You have to remember about wad cutters. These are good competition, R10 wad cutters here. The thing you have to remember about wad cutters is they're kind of picky for speed and distance. So typically these are used out to 25 yards. You can go further, but one thing you have to remember about wad cutters is they have a low ballistic coefficient. It's like 0.010 for a lot of your wad cutters in rifles that I've tested before in the field, 0 to 25 yards. So you want to make sure you understand that. And for a good wad cutter pellet, you have to test them with different amounts of pumps at different distances, like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 yards. Now, you might get lucky and use a wad cutter out to 40 yards. There's a couple of my air guns that on a calm night with less wind and stuff like that these wad cutters can do good out to 40 yards, even though they're really light. So you have to test. You have to test to see where, how far they're going to get out and stuff like that, and how accurate they are. But the ballistic coefficient is 0.010 on these probably, so they are going to slow down quite a bit. So even though you think they're fast because of 7 grains, that speed only lasts for a little while in flight. Wad cutters tend to slow down quite a bit simply just because of their shape. So that's something to know about wad cutters, is you want to do a test at different ranges, different pumps, and see which one's going to work on your rifle. Like I said before, we're still in the break-in period for this Crosman Legacy. This is at 15 yards, 2 pumps. I was using a 7.33 grain Air Arms Falcon. And here's a dime. 10-shot groups. So the gun being new, just kind of doing shot groups with them, it's kind of nice to see dime groups at 15 yards when it's new. Now, when it breaks in, eventually, what you hope for is that group to shrink up on you. So I like doing 10-shot groups because it kind of verifies the accuracy. You could do 3-shot groups and stuff like that and get kind of lucky, like the Irish get a cloverleaf group or even all in the same hole. But try that 10 times. So that's what I mean. It's good to do a 10-shot group to verify accuracy. Also, when I sight in down here at 15 yards, what I do is I sight in by the 10-shot group. I don't sight in by the individual shot. If you sight in by the individual shot, what will happen is you'll end up chasing shots all over the place. So what it's best to do is, for instance, this is my aim point right here, is to fire 10 shots, then find out what the click value is from here to here, and then just move up your scope, your turret right up here. And then when all of these surround that dot, then you're pretty much sighted in. So the power setting on this scope when I did this was 9 power, and the aim point is 1/4 inch. Okay, so some people would ask, is the Crosman Legacy like the 2100 model? And to answer your question for that, the receiver right here on the 2100 model that's been around for decades is probably a die-cast zinc. This is more like a plastic, but the rifle is cheaper. It does have a rifled barrel, and over time, with break-in, with the trigger, I'm going to find out if the trigger is the same. I'm pretty sure it is, but the rifle needs to break in to see if it's comparable to the 2100. I'm thinking they put all the same parts in, except for having more metal on the 2100. So hopefully that's the case, because then you get a cheaper model 2100. So this one here would go for, say, $45, whereas the model 2100 could get up to 70 or something like that. So when you see the Legacy, it looks, pretty much similar in most ways to the 2100. But once again, the 2100 has got that metal receiver. So if you can afford to get that one, it's good to do. I do have one of them here. By the way, this is called the Legacy 1000. So I haven't been able to get 1000 FPS out of this. And a lot of you know that airgun companies always exaggerate velocities a little bit, but I will show you some chrony results that I had on this one. There is a couple airgun companies that are known for being accurate as far as their velocities. One of them's Hatsan. If you buy a Hatsan rifle, you're always going to get 50 to 100 FPS stated beyond what they say for lead pellets. So if it says a lead pellet's doing 1250, usually the pellet is going to do like 1350, and I found that out to be true in my 177 break barrel Model 135 made by Hatsan in 177. So yeah, a lot of airgun companies are gonna say that they have the high FPS, but I even used a 4-grain in this one, and that's the lightest pellet you can use, and still haven't reached that 1000 FPS. I didn't expect it either because, like I said, a lot of airgun companies overrate their air guns in FPS, so you have to do your own chrony readings. Okay, I have some chrony results here for the Crosman Legacy. Right here I did the R10 pellet, which is made by RWS. This is a 7-grain wad cutter. And I don't know if you can see that, but here's the results for 1 through 10. And you can see we had a high of 716 FPS there. Now, if we go down here to the Crosman SSP, you'll notice that the Crosman SSP starts out, for one pump, it's 325. That's pretty good for just one pump. That's a pretty high velocity for one pump. And at 10 pumps, we're coming in at 880. Like I said before, this isn't quite a 1000 FPS pump rifle because the manufacturers usually tell lies a little bit, or probably all the time. The H&N Trophy 5.56 grain. This is a alloy pellet, 276 at 1 pump and 796 at 10. Air Arms Heavy 10.3 grain. We got 213 for 1 pump, 616 for 10. H&N Sniper 15 grain, 156 for 1 pump and 506 for 10 pumps. This is a very heavy pellet, but you can still get 500 FPS out of it. So anyway, that's what kind of chrony results so far I've gotten, and probably more to come. You know, randomly I add videos to my YouTube channel, but you want to look at all my videos because I cover a lot of details on some things that you guys might want to be interested. So you just want to scroll through them really quick. And for instance, this Crosman Legacy might have several videos by the time I get done with it.